Hey everybody, we're gonna talk about nutrition today. I'm just gonna talk about diabetes because I think it's an important thing and definitely goes diabetes do unfortunately end up getting diabetes, what we can do to fix it. So does anybody have idea of diabetes or like what it is? We're just trying to spark discussion as well as
Jordan, you're going in and out, but I always heard that like diabetes was like I've always heard of it as like sugar diabetes or something like that. I never knew if there was a salt diabetes or not. But the only thing I know about diabetes is that some people like if their sugar is low, then they have to eat certain like they have to be on a certain diet. They could also have skin issues if it got really bad or something like that. But I don't know a lot about diabetes.
anybody else. I'll come back to you, Kiana. Let me put my camera on. Is it breaking up really, really bad? Or can y'all see me good? Or how is it?
It's better now. We can
Okay.
see it.
Okay, cool. Anybody else have any idea?
What's going on, but you all keep cutting out for me really bad.
Me too.
Oh, gosh. You said what?
You were freezing for a while, Kiana, and then Jordan kept cutting out as well. It might be me. I don't know.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Christian, Whitney.
Whitney logged off for a second.
Okay. Christian.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I just was asking like the different types of diabetes. Do you guys know, or did y'all even know there was different types?
I knew there was type 1 and type 2.
Yeah, it is. And it's also a gestational diabetes when you're pregnant, or not you, Christian, but when people are pregnant, they can have a gestational diabetes, meaning that your blood sugar is at a higher level because you're pregnant. All right. So we're going to talk about diabetes and why you may get it, or the difference between the two types, and we're going to talk about the effects that it has on our bodies and what foods we can eat if we do end up getting diabetes. And it's really like if you get the type 2 diabetes, probably one of the most reversible diseases ever, really. So yeah, we'll dive into that. So people with type 1 diabetes do not produce insulin. So it's like they have all these locks, but they don't have the key, which is insulin, to break down, the sugar. So type 1 diabetes is they do not produce insulin, meaning they have all these locks, but they don't have the keys to fit them. And people with type 2 diabetes don't respond to insulin as well as they should later in the disease, often don't make enough insulin. So it's like they have all these locks and they have all these keys, but the keys don't fit the locks. So they don't have the right keys to break down the diabetes or the sugar. Type 2 diabetes is probably often like the most milder than type 1. So like it has like the least effects on you than type 1. Type 1 is basically most of the time you're born with type 1 diabetes, but I know that some people get it as they get older as well. But type 2 diabetes definitely raises your risk of heart disease and stroke. So can you guys think of some things that can possibly raise your risk of getting diabetes?
Definitely obesity. Of just me going to the doctor my whole life, I've always heard you could be at risk for diabetes and stuff like that. I've never had it, fortunately, but I know just being overweight, obesity, eating, is it like fried foods or really really sugary foods, or like just having like a southern soul food type of diet can definitely.
Yeah, an unhealthy diet overall.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. Definitely true. So really is we're really just watching our carbs. So if you think about it, fried foods is dipped in flour, which makes like the friedness of it. So it produces that layer. So that once you eat that, it's kind of like bread, kind of like carbs. So carbs eventually turn into sugar. So like potatoes, fries, I mean, shoot, sometimes even sweet potatoes, like everything pretty much has carbs in it, but like you want to stay away from those high carbs. So, like I said, stuff like bread, potatoes, sweets, so like anything that's breaded, like cake, ice cream. I mean, it's a lot of things that you guys should be aware of when if you are into diabetes or if you just don't want to get diabetes. Um, Kiana mentioned a good point. Like obesity is definitely one of the causes of diabetes, which is why they recommend exercising as like a thing to manage or a thing to manage diabetes is, they always say, exercise for at least 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. So yes. Anybody else know? Whitney just joined back. Does anybody else have any other things that are with diabetes?
I've heard that like there's some type of condition that I have on my neck which makes it like darker than the rest of my body, and I heard that that's like a sign for diabetes or like pre-diabetes or something like that. Like I said, I've never had diabetes and I've had this my entire life, so I'm not sure how it's I'm sure it can be like a sign or something, but for me personally it hasn't went into
So it's definitely a sign, even on your face. So if you realize, like, even just people with like
the dark spots.
Right. So not like necessarily the spots, but it's like a complete like yes on your face. Yeah. Like it's like it happens right here on your neck. Like it is a sign of pre-diabetes. And just because you're on the verge, like I think your sugar has to be like 0.52. I think that's kind of like considered high. So like if you go to the doctor and they take your glucose levels, and if your glucose or your H1C is above like a 0.45, 0.52, that's kind of like between those are kind of like pre-diabetes. But as you get higher, that's the greater it is that you are going to have it. And so it's a test that they take, and you do like within like the last week, and then you do within the last 3 months. If your H1C levels are high or amongst the same in the last 3 months, that is when you're considered a diabetic. So like, let's just say you went and got blood work done and your H1C is higher at that time. They only do it for like maybe that day. So then they go back and test you they can track it within like the last 3 months. And that is when they determine whether you're a diabetic or whether you're not. So the different foods that we kind of want to avoid are sugar and sweetened drinks. So like soda, sweet teas, lemonade. They're all, an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. You also want to look at the types of fats that you're intaking. So it could be like it's a difference between good fats and bad fats. So good fats are like stuff like avocados and stuff like that are good fats. But then saturated fats can be meats, butters, like milk, cheese. So yeah, the bad fats. And also good fats are also in nuts as well. So it's important that you, I think one of our students discussed this, like red and processed meats are not good for you if you are at risk for diabetes. I try to stay away from those anyway, because I just don't feel that they're good, but I kind of want a burger tonight. But this, like everything, you can have your things in moderation, but it's important to like, don't let it become an overly, like you and taking it often. Like once a week is fine, but if it's for real, for honestly, like red meats and stuff like that, they already take a lot of time to digest. So it's just better to stay away from red meats. But I definitely love a good burger, and I know Christian does too. I think we had that conversation before. So
right.
Love red meat, love a good meatloaf, love a good cheeseburger.
Oh, don't even the meatloaf. You're
I
killing me.
know that's your favorite. So that's important. So let me go ahead and get the actual numbers as far as your A1C. I'm looking it up right now. So a normal A1C is below, okay, so it's 5.7. So 5.7 is a normal A1C, a level of 5.7 to 6.4%. I knew I was kind of like in the ballpark. I think I said 0.45, but it's 4. I was thinking 4.5, but anyway, it's 5.7, which is higher than I thought. So 5.7 to 6.4%, your A1C indicates pre-diabetes, and a level of 6.5% or more indicates diabetes. So the higher your A1C, the greater risk is for developing type 2 diabetes. Does anybody know how you can check your A1C?
No, ma'am.
I know.
Okay.
Checking the
Go
blood
ahead.
sugar, but not the A1C.
Oh, well, I mean, I think that's kind of check your, let's do check your blood sugar.
Okay, then.
Because I mean, the A1C is like within your blood. So, sorry, I misspoke, but that's what I meant.
No, that's fine. I don't know if the A1C levels might be different. I know just checking blood glucose level or blood sugar level is what we did as an EMT, and that's when you just prick somebody and use a little machine.
Yeah, and the blood, and it says ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
And it tells you what your blood sugar levels are. So it's called you insert the test strip into your meter, prick the side of your fingertip with the needle, and then you touch and hold it, and the drop of blood gets onto the meter, and the meter will display your blood sugar level on the screen. And there's also this is a new thing. I don't know if you guys are seeing on TV, but it's like a wristband, and it kind of sticks onto your skin. And so basically it reads it so you won't keep bruising your fingers. And I guess it looks more appealing, but you also don't want to let people know that you are possibly have it. But they do have the thing that kind of reads it and kind of tells you have to put it on your thing. And I think it's like controlled by app, which, I mean, granted, we're getting more innovative with it, but it's also kind of like you don't want nobody to know that you have diabetes.
Do you have to have it like on the outside of your arm, or can you have it like on the inside?
No. Let me see if I can pull up this thing. It's like hold on. It's called a glucose monitor, and it comes with like hold on, let's see if I can share my screen.
Because I was thinking, like, what can somebody say if they find out you have diabetes?
Oh, no. It's like it's for your own sake. It's not for like anybody else, but you know how sometimes people
Like
get
stigma.
just like, yeah, I don't want nobody to know that I could possibly have diabetes, or like, I mean, it's kind of like a low-key embarrassing thing, I guess, for people that have it. I know I wouldn't be embarrassed, but I think it's like a personal thing, like, oh, well, oh, you're overweight, so that's why you got diabetes. Oh, you can't eat this certain stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe it makes people think that they might treat you differently because you have diabetes. Yeah. The stigma of it. So like, you don't have to be overweight to get diabetes. You can just not be eating healthy to get diabetes, but just overweight just makes it a more like you know,
reason.
Yeah, more at risk. So or you know how people just talk. You don't want people to just like, oh, well, she has weight, so that's why she got it. But anybody can get diabetes. It's really genetics. You don't have anything to do whether you're overweight or not. And based on, I mean, the doctor's orders, everybody's overweight. So you can be like the skinniest person and still be overweight in the doctor's eyes. But no, it doesn't always have to do with being overweight. If you're eating too much bread, too much sweets, to drinking, really just like going overboard with everything, you can struggle with that. So if I can pull this up, let me see.
I think when I was in elementary school, a girl that was in our class had diabetes, and she was not overweight by any means. Like she just was so called like normal, and
Right.
we were just all shocked. Like we didn't know what it was, and we was just like, "What does that mean?" Back then. So.
And she probably could have had type 1 diabetes, meaning that you don't have I think you don't produce enough insulin to break down the sugar, and then it's like you have enough insulin, but it just doesn't break down the sugar. It's type 2, but type 1, I mean, anybody can get it at birth. Like I said, mostly genetic. I mean, mostly it's genetics. Even if you get type 2 diabetes, I mean, if your parents had it, think about it. If your parents had it, their parents had it, their parents had it, like it's gonna come down to you eventually. Like stuff starts to become genetically within, your bloodline. So it's important for you to kind of like stop the stigma, stop the thing, and kind of eat healthy. I mean, think about it. I mean, what you eat is what your parents eat, what their parents and what their parents ate. I mean, it just becomes like a cultural thing. So, as you all know, Black people are probably more susceptible of getting diabetes, just like we are. It's not high blood pressure. It's basically based on our food intake. I mean, we eat high cholesterol stuff like fried chicken, even though it's good, doesn't mean it's always good for us. So it has a high sodium, high cholesterol, it's sugary. It turns into sugar eventually because of the flour and the bready type texture. So it becomes sugar. So yeah. I got this picture that I want to show you guys. This is kind of like the new innovative type. I think it's been around a little longer, but it's kind of been on the, hold on. I don't know what happened just now, but let me see if I can find it. All right, can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
No?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's, yeah, so it's just like a little sticky thing, and it kind of comes with like a little machine to tell you, what your blood or your blood sugar levels are at that time. And I mean, it's less, it's less appealing, but also, if you have a longer shirt or whatever, nobody really knows. It keeps from the bruising of your fingers and from pricking all of the time, because I think you have to prick 3 times a day after you eat breakfast, 2 hours after you eat breakfast, 2 hours after you eat lunch, and I think 2 hours after you eat dinner. You have to check. So yeah, it's a lot. Also, let me see. I'm gonna look up what is the best blood sugar level. I should know all of this stuff, but I'm learning so much stuff. It's hard to keep up with everything. Levels. Okay. All right. So the blood sugar and the A1C is 2 different things. The blood sugar level should be less than 140. So like that's the normal. A reading of, and sometimes I check my sugar every once in a while, and I think it's good for you all to do. Maybe not every day like you have diabetes, but it's definitely important if you have a family member that have diabetes to use their little machine. I mean, I'm sure everyone has one that has diabetes, but use their little machine to kind of see what your blood sugar level is. It's important to know. We should definitely be ahead of it rather than behind it. So I think you should check. So a blood sugar level less than 140 is normal. A reading of more than 200 after 2 hours after eating indicates diabetes. So a reading between 140 and 199 is pre-diabetes. So after you eat, wait about 2 hours. And if you have somebody that has the little machine, check it. I mean, it's not going to hurt. I know sometimes we think it's better to not know if we have it or if we don't have it, but I always check mine at least like 2 or 3 times a year just to make sure I'm not in those levels. So yeah. Some symptoms. I got some symptoms of pre-diabetes or diabetes. Give me a second to pull it up. All right, so you have frequent urination. When you have diabetes, your blood sugar rises, making it harder for your kidneys to do their job. You have excessive thirst. So you quickly become dehydrated because when you drink water and you're eating a lot of sweets and salt, like salt dries up the water. So basically, like if you put salt in water, if you think about it, like one of them is a soluble and one of them is like not. So basically it's like basically sopping up all, like the salt is basically sopping up the salt and the sugar is basically sopping up all the water. So you have excessive thirst. You're constantly hungry, since you're, basically, I hate to be so blunt, but like peeing out your nutrients, your body isn't getting, the fuel it needs. So you're steady being hungry, you have extreme fatigue, you have blurred vision, frequent urinary affections, and tingling or numbness in the hands and the feet. So some signs to look out for women is high blood pressure, swollen feet, fatty liver, tiredness, increased appetite, weight loss, blurred vision, frequent urination, excessive thirst, skin infections or dark spots, vaginal itching, and high blood sugar levels. So those are some things that we need to look out for just as being humans. I mean, anybody can be diagnosed. You can be 15, 16, 45 being diagnosed with diabetes. So some foods to eat if you do have diabetes that are good is asparagus, blueberries, grapefruit, beans, preferably black beans, broccoli, carrots, fish, cranberries, apples. You do have to be, when you have diabetes, you do have to be conscious of what kind of sugars you intake. So sometimes, like, I know this sounds crazy, but sometimes apples and like natural fruits can have higher sugars than like cakes. So if you don't have diabetes, it's important to eat the fruits now so you'll not crave those bad sugars or bad fats. Or so it's important to eat those now. But if you have diabetes, you have to be careful with, because that can spike your blood sugar level up. Even though it's natural sweets and it's good for you, it can spike it up. But if you're haven't been diagnosed, it's important to eat those kind of sugars now, and you will crave less sugar. So if I eat a handful of grapes, it's better for me than eating 2 or 3 pieces of cake. But if I'm having it'll ease the sugar levels off, so you won't be craving that much sugar if you eat a handful of grapes rather than eating 1 piece of cake and wanting like 2 other pieces of cake. So it's important to eat that now. But if you have diabetes and you eat a handful of grapes, it can easily spike your blood sugar way up, and you don't want that. So some negative effects can be comas for both ends. If your blood sugar gets too low, you'll end up having a coma, and if your blood sugar gets too high, you can as well. So I just wanted to talk about diabetes because diabetes and your nutrition, your food intake kind of have kind of go hand in hand. So that's all I have for today. Do you guys have any questions? I mean, I can answer them to the best of my abilities, but if not, I can look it up, or I can get back to you. But yeah, nutrition is definitely important in decreasing your diseases in general, cancer, diabetes, blood pressure, diseases, and what you like food intake which is what you put in your body, goes hand in hand. So does anybody have any questions? I wish I could do this in a more fun way. I'm all virtual right now, so it's definitely hard to talk about nutrition without actually having, nutrition in the classroom. Do you guys have any questions about diabetes or just any comments?
Hey, Jordan, can I add real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you know that you do have diabetes or start having the symptoms, make sure that you don't just take any over-the-counter meds without checking with your doctor first. Prime example, my mom was diagnosed with a sinus infection. Little did we know that she had been deemed a diabetic. The medicine they prescribed for her shot her sugar levels all the way up to like 700, and it started to cause blindness. Luckily, they were able to reverse it. So just please be mindful of over-the-counter medicines or prescription medicines that are prescribed without talking to like a diabetes specialist.
Definitely be a negative effect, even not only for like sugar, just for anything. Your liver can, like, give out kidneys, anything.
You're really low, Jordan.
Anybody else have anything to add on? Sorry, I couldn't hear if somebody else was talking. But Whitney, that was a great point. Don't go just taking any kind of medicine. It can have an adverse effect on the medicines that you are taking, like metformin, which is probably one of the most common medications that are given to type 2 diabetics to manage their blood sugar levels.
Please be careful with that one. It also causes kidney issues.
Exactly. So you want to get off of it, which means managing your diet. So metformin, like I said, is probably one of the most common things, but like when he said, it also can mess up your kidney. So you want to try to get off that as quickly as possible. Eating healthier can manage that. All right, so that's all I have for today. I hope you guys learned something or took away something from this lesson. For the Flashback Friday, you can just get it by writing a couple things down that you guys remember from the lesson or something of that sort to get the point. So guys, be careful with what you eat. I know sometimes we go overboard. We want sweets and all this kind of stuff. So just be careful. Anybody? All right, that's all I have for today.